Imagine you are part of a group of employees that get fired from a well-known arcade game developer, Irem. You and your fellow coworkers decide to develop your own games and start a company called Nazca Corporation. You then go on to create a run-and-gun arcade game that would later become a cult hit spanning several games. That game is called Metal Slug. But before all that, you and your co-developers needed to have some experience with your former employer. And that's what brings me to this video today. Before Metal Slug, there were some devs at Irem that made one hell of a run and gun, and if you are a fan of the genre, or really into arcade games in general, you already know what I'm talking about. Let's take a look at the 1994 arcade game Gunforce 2, and see exactly how awesome Metal Slug was before it was even Metal Slug. We start with, well, there's no story, intro, or any dialogue. Just a big hole in the ground with the title of the game rising from it. Honestly, this is just badass. A city torn asunder, lightning crashing, and the player is reminded what the fuck they're playing in giant text. It's a dope sight to say the least. Gunforce 2 is, obviously, a run-and-gun arcade game that stars two heroes, Max and Lei, and outside their names, that's all we know, and that's okay, because this game is not about story, but about the awesome gameplay and phenomenal graphics. Like in any run-and-gun, the player shoots their way through a level, killing all in their path until they reach a boss to defeat. The button scheme is simple, with one button to shoot and one button to jump. Very standard on the surface, but Gunforce 2 brings some ideas that just make the game epic. For starters, you rock dual weapons, which is just awesome as fuck, but you also get to shoot in two directions simultaneously. It's great because a lot of the time, you don't need to worry about running forward or backwards while trying to shoot diagonally up, you can just stay in neutral. And naturally, there are weapon upgrades to pick up like a spread gun and a flamethrower. My favorite weapon is a laser, because I can just go full 360 psycho on the screen. But let's say all these guns aren't enough for you. No need to worry, as there are tons of vehicles you get to hop into to crush the opposition. A variety of tanks and mechs are at your disposal, and these motherfuckers got some insane attacks. By far, my favorite is the flying mech. Not only does it look cool as hell, but I just love the idea that I'm flying around in a mobile suit killing fools. It's so sick. The gameplay in Gunforce 2 is masterful and addicting. The dual weapons are superb and an awesome idea to add, and the vehicle combat is probably the most fun part. But what really helps drive this game home as a classic is how great everything looks. This game is flat out pixel eye candy. All the enemies and backgrounds are super detailed. You can feel the weight and metal of every mechanic monstrosity, and the olive drab color palette used also adds a gritty, dirty feeling to it, which I really like. I really like the opening stage as you start on a moving train with a forest background, and there are these giant satellite dishes. This just totally makes me think of Endor from Return of the Jedi. Like most arcade games, the graphical style really shines during the boss battles. For example, the first boss is this awesome giant mech sporting a massive Gatling gun. After enough hits, the mech starts to break down, and the pilot is exposed. You wanna know how bad this motherfucker wants to kill you? This dude is willing to just barehand chuck fucking missiles at you. Whatever cause this guy is fighting for, he is committed to it. The game also has its weird and out-of-pocket shit too, like this sub-boss that is just a big oven that throws mechs at you. Or this random-ass mega worm on steroids that you have to fight against while riding motorcycles. And even the last boss, which is a centipede mech with big old bappers, and underneath, a gnarly fire-breathing skull. This whole game is just like a rad mix of sci-fi and Rambo, and I fuck with it hard. It has some funny charm to it too, like you gotta save the ladies all throughout the game to earn those precious points. But on this one stage, there are chicks hanging from chains, and you end up shooting them on accident damn near every time and just watch them fall to their deaths. Hell, even when you save them, they pump their fists in the air and then still fall off screen. Hooray, death awaits! At the end of each stage, you get a point tally and you increase in rank. Fruitless, since I'm not playing on the actual cab, so no one can see and try to beat my score, but it's still cool nonetheless. Even though this game is really great, I do have some complaints. The big one would be how the frames drop when there's too much shit on the screen and you're playing like you're underwater. It's something I've been used to since the NES days, but the slowdowns did break my immersion every time. Also, it's awesome that you could see a boss break down over time and lose parts as they take damage, but some actual hit detection would have been nice. There were several times where I'm just unloading on a boss and I have no clue if I'm actually doing damage or not. Making the boss or its parts flash on hit would have been great, but you want to know what's weird? Is that there is a boss that does flash when they get hit. Maybe the devs weren't sure on which way to go with this, so they experimented with it? I don't fucking know. And my final complaint is when you beat the game. The final points are totaled and then the game just starts over. No cool cutscene, no credits, just play the game again. I don't know if this is how it is in the original cab, but I would be lying if I said I wasn't expecting something super cool at the end. But to be honest, the game is so fucking dope, it doesn't really matter. Gunforce 2 is a hell of a good time, and definitely a game you should play if you like the genre, or even arcade games in general. You can see how a lot from this game carried over to the Metal Slug games, and it was fun seeing the origins of the franchise. I highly recommend you give this game a playthrough, and if you've played it already, then fucking play it again. It's just that good. Have you played Gunforce 2? What did you think of it? Feel free to share your thoughts. Thank you for watching.